You've changed the COVID misinformation
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
How's everybody doing? My name is Anthony Brian Logan, and today we got to talk about this interview between Elon Musk and a BBC reporter. Now, I've only seen bits and pieces of this. I've not seen the entire thing, but I heard that Elon Musk destroyed the reporter. We're going to see if that's true right now. Before I go any further, let's roll the clip. If you want to see this full thing without my commentary, link as always will be in the description. If you're on Instagram, please visit the link in the bio and go to the corresponding article on the website. But without further ado, let's go ahead and roll it.
Free speech is meaningless unless you allow people you don't like to say things you don't like. Otherwise, it's irrelevant. And if at the point at which you lose free speech, it doesn't come back.
I think the issue some people have is that a lot of people were brought back. I mean, some people were brought back who were previously banned for spreading things like QAnon conspiracies. You have people like Andrew Tate who were brought back.
Now, to be clear, we're talking about Twitter here because Elon Musk recently took over Twitter, and he's saying, well, some people were banned from the platform before you got there, and I guess that's somehow a problem. He's speaking about Andrew Tate and others that he thinks maybe shouldn't be there.
Back who were previously banned for things like hate speech. Do you think you prioritize freedom of speech over misinformation and hate speech?
Well, you know, who's to say that something is misinformation? Who's the arbiter of that?
Why can't I hear all the information and then make my mind up at the end of it? You know, why can't I hear everything that is to be said? Now, the best way to counteract quote unquote misinformation is with real information. From my point of view, maybe you're wrong about that. Let me know in the comments below what you think the best way to combat so-called misinformation is.
Is it the BBC?
You're literally asking me?
Yes.
Well, no, you are the arbiter on Twitter because you own Twitter.
Yes, I'm saying who is to say that one person's misinformation is another person's information? At the point at which you say that there is this is misinformation, like who is going to decide that?
You accept that misinformation can be dangerous, that it can cause.
Like, but what Elon is saying is right, because who defines what so-called misinformation is, and who's to say that you are not able to see it? Remember the whole Hunter Biden thing, the laptop, that was called quote unquote misinformation. 52 intelligence officials said that it most likely came from Russia. It wasn't the real thing. But then we found out, yes, that was him on the laptop smoking crack. Yes, that was him sending the emails. Yes, he did say 10 for the big guy. Yes, he did do that. It was not misinformation. Same thing with C-19 and the masks and the vax, and the list goes on and on and on and on and on. And a lot of these things were censored, and imagine how many people could have been saved or helped if that was allowed to be out there the way that it should.
Real world harms that it can potentially cause.
Yeah, so the point I'm trying to make is that the BBC itself has, at times, published things that are false. Do you agree that that has occurred?
I'm quite sure the BBC have said things before that turn out to not be true.
Correct.
In its, whatever it is, 100-year history, I'm quite sure.
Yes. Even if you aspire to be accurate, there are times when you will not be.
We've spoken to people very recently who were involved in moderation, and they just say there's not enough people to police this stuff, particularly around hate speech in the company. Is that
what hate
that
speech are you talking about? I mean, you use Twitter,
right?
Do you see a rise in hate speech?
I mean,
but just a personal anecdote. Like, what do you? I don't.
Personally, for you, I would see I get more of that kind of content. Yeah, personally. But
now let's pause right here. Now, if you're on Twitter, you have two different tabs you can have as your default when you see tweets. The following, which is only going to be tweets from those that you follow, unless they retweet an account that you don't follow. Let's say, for example, let's say I follow Elon Musk and he retweets someone that I don't follow. I'll see that because it's on his account. He retweeted it. But the for you is a thing that is kind of algorithm based, and it's showing you tweets that they think you want to see. You may not be following these people at all. Maybe you are, but maybe you're not. So sometimes in that, you're going to see a lot of things you might not want to see. And let's see what he says about that.
But I'm not going to talk to the rest of for the rest of Twitter.
So you see more hate speech personally?
I would say I would see more hateful content in that.
Content you don't like or hateful? What do you mean to describe a hateful thing?
Yeah, I mean, just content that will solicit a reaction, something that may include something that is slightly racist or slightly sexist, those kinds of things.
So you think if something is slightly sexist, it should be banned?
No,
is that what you're saying?
I'm not saying anything. I'm saying.
Well, I'm just curious. I'm trying to understand what you mean by hateful content. And I'm asking for specific examples. And you just said that if something is slightly sexist, that's hateful content. Does that mean that it should be banned?
Well, you've asked me whether my feed, whether it's got less or more. I'd say it's got slightly more.
But see, he's trying to get down to the core of, well, define hateful. You're saying that there's more hateful stuff, but what does hateful mean to you? And if you define it as hateful, then should it be banned? Like, what are we talking about exactly? Let's get down to the core of your gripe.
So I'm asking for examples. Can you name one example?
I honestly don't use. Honestly, I
you
don't.
can't name a single example.
I'll tell you why. Because I don't actually use that for you feed anymore. Because I just don't particularly like it.
But you
said a lot of people are quite similar. I only look at
hang on a second.
Now I'm gonna just say this: the For You feed, I did not like a while ago. They've improved it a lot, but for a while it was things in there I didn't like to see. I wouldn't say it was anything hateful or racist. Maybe that is on the platform, of course. I mean, you got all kind of different opinions on the platform, and it really just a matter of what you think is hateful or racist. But what I was seeing is more gross and violent content. Like, I saw somebody getting stabbed to death, like all kind of just wild stuff like that on the For You feed. And it was to the point where I wish you could just turn it off. But since that time, probably about 2 weeks ago, they've improved it dramatically. But the hateful and racist content, I'm not really sure what he's talking about. And again, you got to give an example of that so he's able to see what's going on. And also, this is the guy that is running Twitter right now. So if you present a valid complaint and you give real examples, he may be able to fix the problem. But if you can't do that, then it's like, what are we talking about exactly? What is the point? You telling me there's things on the platform you don't like, but you can say what it is. You have no idea exactly what it is. Like, let's keep on going here.
You said you've seen more hateful content, but you can't name a single example, not even one.
I'm not sure I've used that feed for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And
then how did you see that hateful content?
Because I've been using Twitter since you've taken it over for the last 6 months.
Okay, so then you must have at some point seen the For You hateful content. I'm asking for one example.
Right.
And you can't give a single one.
And I'm saying
I say, sir, that you don't know what you're talking about.
Really?
Yes, because you can't give me a single example of hateful content, not even one tweet.
Now, I'm going to kind of defend the reporter here. The reporter probably just saw some things that he didn't like. Like, I'm going to give the in-between, the middle ground. He may have seen a few things he didn't like on the For You tab because he was not following these people and he saw something that he normally wouldn't follow. And then in his mind, it's like, okay, I don't like this For You tab. I'm going to leave. And he's just categorizing everything as hateful and racist without an example of what that is because he just saw things he didn't like in general. And just categorize everything that way. Elon is like, okay, can you tell me something that you saw that you didn't like? He's not really able to remember because it all kind of falls up under the same umbrella for him. That is kind of what I'm seeing. But I see where Elon is coming from, like, hey, man, I'm here to help you, but you got to help me to help you.
And yet you claimed that the hateful content was high.
Well,
that's false.
No, what I claimed...
You just lied.
What I claimed was there are many organizations that say that kind of information is on the rise. Now, whether it has on my feed or not, I mean, right, and
literally
you can look at something
one.
like the Strategic Dialogue Institute in the UK. They will say that. So
look, people will say all sorts of nonsense. I'm literally asking for a single example, and you can't name one.
Right, and as I already said, I don't use that feed. But
then how would you know that?
I don't think this is getting anywhere.
You literally said you experienced more hateful content, and then couldn't name a single example.
Right, and as I said,
that's absurd.
I haven't actually looked at that feed.
Then how would you know this hateful content?
Because
it's kind of going circular right now. We got to progress forward because the reporter is not going to be able to say anything. He just saw some things he didn't like and just categorized everything up under one umbrella, which is kind of unfair. You can't just say, "Oh, it was hateful and racist." You should be able to say why you didn't like something. But then again, he was not necessarily trying to bring that. He wasn't trying to bring the argument from his perspective. But again, if you're going to say something like that, you need to be able to prove it, because that's a pretty challenging or serious allegation.
I'm saying that's what I saw a few weeks ago. I can't give you an exact example. Let's move on. We only have a certain amount of time. COVID misinformation. You changed the COVID misinformation
Has
rules.
BBC changed its COVID misinformation?
The BBC does not set the rules on Twitter, so I'm asking you.
No, I'm talking about the BBC's misinformation about COVID.
It's a good question, because Twitter is not the only place that has changed their policy when it relates to C-19 information. YouTube did that. I'm sure BBC did it, because the quote-unquote science has changed. Remember, they say trust the science, believe the science. Well, as I said from the very beginning, science changes. It does not stay the same. So I'm sure they changed their policy the same as Twitter changed their policy. So why bring that up as a thing that is unique to Twitter?
I'm literally asking you about, you changed the labels, the COVID misinformation labels. There used to be a policy, it then disappeared. Why do that?
Well, COVID is no longer an issue.
Right, correct.
Does the BBC hold itself at all responsible for misinformation regarding masking and side effects of vaccinations, and not reporting on that at all? And what about the fact that the BBC was put under pressure by the British government to change its editorial policy? Are you aware of that?
This is not an interview about the BBC.
No, answer the question, though. Come on, man. Let's talk about it for real, because you're framing the questions like it's unique to Twitter. But what about y'all? So if y'all if y'all getting pressured by the government, if you guys are changing your C-19 policies, then how are you going to ask me these things like we're the only one doing it? Come on.
I see now why you've done Twitter Spaces. I am not a representative of the BBC's editorial policy. I want to make that clear. Let's talk about something else. If you want to talk about the BBC, all right. Let's talk about.
Okay, so that's that. Again, if you want to see that full thing, link will be in the description. That was pretty interesting, very interesting. They kind of got stuck for a minute on the whole thing about the For You tab and the hateful content or whatever. But I think overall, the message here, as I close, was that a lot of things that people try to assign to Twitter and Elon Musk, other companies do as well. Changing the C-19 policy, content moderation, misinformation. They try to say, oh, you're spreading misinformation, you're doing this, that, and the third, but these companies do the same thing. They do the exact same thing, so what's the difference? But I think I'll leave that right there for now. And what say you? How do you feel about Elon Musk's performance during this interview with the BBC reporter? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comments below. You guys might know where I stand on it. I think he did a pretty good job. Again, they got kind of stuck in one moment talking about the policies, talking about the hateful things that he may have seen on the For You tab. But beyond that, he did pretty good. I think toward the end, he really nailed it home when he's talking about the C-19 policies. The question was framed in a way that made it seem like Elon is the only one that does anything like that on Twitter, but really it's the entire industry. So why single me out? Very simple. But whatever your thoughts are, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got to say for this video. If you like what you heard, please comment, rate, share, and subscribe. Peace.